been thinking about the story of the shepherds this week, and a few of you who were at the Advent lunch caught some of my thoughts that I've been thinking through. And it kind of stems a little bit from a story that I've kind of had a flashback recently. I think it was maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I took one of the boys to a birthday party. It was a great birthday party. I went to the party, and there were scads of people and all sorts of food, great games. They had this mini monster truck that the kids could drive around in. It was awesome. It's kind of the party where I felt a little bit jealous because I realized I was never going to be able to pull off a party like that for my kids. So a little twinge of jealousy, but it was really, really great. It got to be time for the kids, well, the birthday kid, to open his presents. So we're looking around. We couldn't find the birthday boy. We'd lost the birthday kid. That's not good. Just in case you're wondering, it kind of puts a damper on the party. Amidst the great celebration, we couldn't find the kid we were supposed to be celebrating. Connect the dots to Advent. We're in the midst of this great and wonderful celebration. It was, do we sometimes miss the one who we are meant to celebrate? I want to walk through the verses that we read, a couple that jumped out to me. In verse 11, the angel tells the shepherds, a Savior has been born. Christ the Lord has been born. And that's who the angels, or the shepherds, go to see. They seek out Jesus as their priority. They don't say to each other, hey, market lambs are on sale this week in Bethlehem anyway. If we have time afterwards, we can swing by and see Jesus. It's not how it worked. How often do we spin it that way? Of if there's enough time at the end of our day, we'll talk to Jesus. If there's enough time at the end of our day, we'll spend a little more time reading about him or thinking about him. It would have been crazy if that had been the shepherd story. Is it crazy if it's our story? Go on to verse 15. And in verse 15, this is where the shepherds are talking about going to Bethlehem. I've spelled it out multiple times. There's no I in shepherd. You'll get it. Wait with me. You guys are kind of, this is a harsh crowd today. They refer to it, they talk in the plural the whole way through. They don't say I. Bob the shepherd doesn't say, I'm going to go in and see Jesus at the manger and get my praise on, and then when I'm done, you can come in after me and have your own little time. They go together as a group. There's no I in shepherd. Thanks, Faye. At least somebody move on. All right. I tried. How often do we treat Jesus as somebody that just I go before? There's a place in which we have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, but there's also a place for coming before him as a group, encouraging one another to honor and glorify. That's the picture that I get of the shepherds. The shepherds weren't moving just one at a time. They went together because they wanted to be with Jesus as a community. It's what we do weekly. Joining to celebrate and honor Jesus Christ in community. Then verse 20. And this is my favorite part. And the shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for what they had seen and heard. Glorifying God for what they had seen and heard. Think about how different the story would have been if it read, and the shepherds returned, saying that the angel had a few good points to make that day. Or think about how different it would have been if the shepherds returned relieved that the trip to Bethlehem and back did not take more than an hour. I'm not sure if we're going to finish within an hour. Just to put that in context here, it's my disclaimer. The shepherds returned glorifying and praising God. Do our lives look like that? This time of year, we think about Jesus. We read a bunch of scriptures. We've gone through 3 of the Gospels already today. We're going to hear the story. We sing the story with amazing hymns. Do we celebrate it? Or is it all over? Once noon hits, are we done? Or do we go home glorifying and praising God because Jesus is alive? That he's our Savior. That life is entirely different. I'm afraid that if I was one of the shepherds in the story, it'd be, and the shepherds returned glorifying and praising God, and then there was Carl the shepherd who was disappointed there were no refreshments afterwards. How often do we get caught up on the little things and miss the big picture of what God is doing? I hope this Advent that we don't lose Jesus, that we don't lose him amidst the celebration and all the excitement, but that we clearly see our Savior, Christ the Lord, and we return glorifying and praising his name.